This was who was this? Fischer on a podcast today.
Jake Fischer.
Jake Fischer from is it Bleacher?
Yes.
One of your colleagues.
This was 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Two days ago. This is what had Celtics fans all in a tizzy today. Okay, listen.
I would say the early return so far, from what I've heard around the league, there is not much interest in those former first-round picks that Boston has. From Payton Pritchard to Romeo Langford to Grant Williams, I think Aaron Nesmith probably has the highest value of that group. It's difficult. I mean, that's kind of why they're in the situation that they're in right now. They had draft pick after draft pick after draft pick that hasn't netted them anything more than, back of the rotation type players. And they haven't really developed anybody outside of that, besides Robert Williams, and they are where they are. So I think this is definitely the beginning of the end of the Jayson Tatum-Jaylen Brown pairing. I don't know if that will get broken up this season, but I think sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, we're really going to start to hear conversations about the future of Boston with Jaylen Brown heading out the door.
What did I say in L.A.? What was I telling you guys in L.A.?
Jaylen Brown heading out. The almost cut off the biggest part.
I agree with
him. What do you say, Josue?
There's an expiration date for these guys. That's exactly what I was saying in LA. That's dead on. 12 to 18 months, absolutely.
But listen,
I agree with that 100%.
This is standard operating procedure when you have the trip that you had out west, or in general, and you lose games, number of games in a row, and you're playing poorly, and guys are hurt, and all that stuff. This is when that chatter starts. This is when the trade chatter, the rumors, the reports, the this, that, the other thing. You hear that stuff. You don't hear that when they're winning games. So after a game like tonight, if they can string together a few more games like they did tonight and get them going back in the right direction, that trade talk, you don't hear that. So I'm not surprised at all to hear something like that. If you want to say put 12 to 18 months, I mean, that makes a lot of sense based on the way things went the last week or two. But I don't know necessarily that's true if they can end up, stringing together some wins, making a little bit of a playoff run. I don't know. Now, that being said, I don't think that the team is untouchable. Certainly not. I mean, we all sit here, I think right now, knowing that they aren't good enough to win a title. So if you're not good enough to win a title, then yeah, of course, there's players that are available. They're going to be available to be traded. But I think when you have games like you did tonight, that silences some of that talk for a little bit. That West Coast trip did so much for the trade, trade this person, trade that person side of things, because it's just easy. It's low-hanging fruit at that point.
Yeah.
I still think, let me just give both sides of this. From the other side of the perspective in the league, I think Celtics fans have a vision that you can just take your pick of anybody in the NBA if you trade Brown, and it'd be a straight-up swap, Brown for Beal, Brown for Towns, Brown for whoever. I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of these other stars would be asking for more beyond Brown, and Brown would just be the centerpiece. And then all of a sudden you say, that's a lot for that guy. So I don't think that's the reality of Brown's value, is that you get a one-for-one swap of anybody you want in the NBA. So I think that's the first thing people have to consider when they think about trading Brown here. I also think it's just stupid to double down and trade Brown and, reinforce all the mistakes that you've made by throwing away valuable guys in terms of assets and picks and all the stuff over the years that you've held and lost. And then you just throw another 24-year-old star out the window because you don't have anything else to offer. And that's essentially what Jake's saying right there, right? They have nothing else that's valuable. They're going to have to trade Brown. That's horrible asset management in my eyes. Now, if you can get a player straight up for Brown that's better and fits better here, then maybe you go ahead and do it. But I just don't think that's possible. I think you're sending out other stuff with Brown to go get a Towns or a Beal or any one of these other guys, and then you're just even more diminished. We've talked about it being a lateral move. I think it might even be a net negative move for the Celtics in the end to go out and trade Brown for one of these stars. Now, do you get a massive return?
But Bobby, I don't think he's saying this. I don't think he's saying trading Jaylen Brown to necessarily get better. I think it's saying it's not going to work, and I'm going to lose one of the other. So I got to build around the other guy.
Why can we say it's not going to work? They're 23.
That's not what they're saying.
Over there, gum.
He can't even pronounce Aaron Nesmith's names right because he hasn't made an impact in the NBA.
What they're saying here is they're out of moves, and
they're not out of moves.
rather than sure that you are, Bobby.
Those guys don't have value.
Bobby,
They don't have a lot of value right now.
Bobby, of the two things that he said there, one is a frigging speculative hot take about the Celtics dumping Jaylen Brown, one of their two best players, without any sources. And then the first part is exactly how all of the league feels about all of the Celtics young players. The first part is the one that's absolutely 100% valid and hard to argue with. And that's why they're in a tough spot. So if you're seeing after, and when you say, Bobby, how's it not working? If you see 2 seasons worth of 500 basketball, then you start to think we can stay at 500 or I can try to do something drastic. That's where you start to say we got to try something. And that's why it becomes a conversation. Not because at this moment you think a Jaylen Brown swap for another player with the rest of this core makes you instantly better. It doesn't, because you're right. It's either a 1-for-1 or, in fact, you're actually giving up extra parts to it. So that doesn't make sense. But the rest of it does make sense, which is they really screwed themselves with a lot of other things. That's the problem.
So you're going to double down and make another bad move? I just...
No one's saying that. They're saying you might have the thinking behind it is your back's going to be against the wall. It's not for improving today. It's for
your back's
kind of
against the wall if one of them want to leave. That's when you move Brown. If he wants to leave...
You're going to run into that in 18 months, potentially, if you
continue to lose the way you are.
If you continue to lose. And so it's not ridiculous what he's saying. I just don't know if he's got something behind it or he's just speculating. I think it's reasonable speculation.
I just don't know how it's ridiculous to give away all your future picks and consolidate here. And that's more ridiculous than trading Brown, who's an all-star, who's 24, who's one of the best young players in the league. I mean, these picks are just lottery tickets, tosses in the dark, things that aren't going to help you from years from now. So, I mean, no one talks about consolidating all your future picks with this team. I know everybody rolls their eyes and laughs when I say it, but I think that's the smartest thing you can do if you're the Celtics right now. Get aggressive. Go out and find a third guy to complement these guys with. I don't know. Have they put all their picks on the table and been rejected? Maybe. And maybe I'm just shouting into the wind here, but that seems to be viewed as a more ridiculous thing than it is, because the Bulls have done it, the Bucks have done it, the Nets have done it, all the teams ahead of you in the East have done it, and the Knicks are going to do it very soon here. So that's what I think is the smart thing to do here, not trading Brown, a guy that you know, like, and has thrived and gotten better every single year on you. And I don't know why fans and people alike are so excited to do it. I know they're not excited to do it. They think it's the only option here.
I don't think anybody wants to do it. I think people
to do it.
I think people are desperate. Because they're tired of mediocrity and they're thinking, how are you going to shake it out?
Well, desperation gets you killed.
The fear here is that somebody's going to – the fear here between these guys is that if they don't improve together, one of the two is going to look for greener pastures elsewhere. And that's – so I think people are worried about that. That's all.
What move would you make with Brown?
Sherrod, why don't you weigh in here?
I will if I can't get rid of this damn Brockton Wi-Fi I'm working with here.
You're good, though. You're working. Go ahead.
They are. Listen, here's what I think that you have to understand about this whole Jaylen and the first-round picks that have been late first-round picks, which, as we all know, those are like the slimmest of hitting lottery tickets you can possibly have. So no one should be surprised that guys.
Why is your pick in 2027? I'm gonna let it go.
Why is what?
I was gonna say, why is your pick in 2026, 2027 a mid-round pick? The Celtics could be awful then, and all of a sudden teams are rubbing their hands. It's a risk here, and I talked about this the other day. The rebuilding teams like Portland, Indiana, if they're going to go in that direction, they're betting on the Celtics falling apart here in future seasons, like the Nets did when the Celtics got Tatum and Brown with those future picks.
That was different, man. That was an aging core, though. You know what I mean? Like the way other teams are thinking about it is that one of these guys is most likely going to stay, whether it's Tatum or Brown. So whether this team is a 500 team or one that's just below it, that still doesn't get teams what they really want, which is, a top 10 lottery pick.
That's fair, but teams have done it Josue.
Yeah,
NBA
I just don't
teams.
think. Yeah, with the Tatum and Brown tandem, though, I just think they see it. The near future going to be somewhat bright.
There's two things. It's that you're either afraid one's going to walk, or that they're not going to want to stick it out, so you do something. The other one is just people are just impatient, and they think Jaylen Brown is trading Jaylen is a magic solve all that's going to get you everything you need, and that's silly. I mean, the window to trade Jaylen passed 4 years ago. 3 years ago when you could have traded up into Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, one of those types of situations.
His rookie contract still.
That's where you roll the dice on, I'm going to go get the established star. And if Jaylen ends up being as good as those guys or better, well, I took my shot. But that's when you trade him. Now he's already a star. You're going to trade a star for a star? As you said, it's at best a lateral move.
Sure, you were talking.
Rich Paul ruined everything, all right?
I just think people are panicked. But yeah, go
ahead.
Had
their eyes on Anthony Davis. Everything was set up, and Rich Paul came and ruined it for Boston. So.
You were saying, Sherrod.
Well, Rich Paul didn't ruin it for the Celtics. The Celtics ruined it for the Celtics because they didn't have the cojones to go and make that move. That's another story, another day.
Yep.
What's happening now is you've got a Celtics team that is in the worst place that you can possibly be, which is in the middle, right smack dab in the middle. And the problem here's the one thing you guys got to remember: when teams are looking at draft picks down the road, they're looking at these teams the way that businessmen and women look at the stock market. They look at the past trends. How has this stock performed historically when certain factors come into play? The Celtics have shown that they have been able to be pretty damn resilient. They don't really bottom out. They don't necessarily rise to the top. When they're bad, at least the last 10 or so years, they're basically where they are right now. So if you're getting one of their draft picks, guess what? It's probably going to be late teens, early 20s. So that is why if you're looking to package picks and stuff like that, nobody wants to touch that if it's the Celtics because they know it's not going to be that valuable at all. Unless you're a team like San Antonio, which seems to always find the damn Kawhi Leonards and the Manu Ginobilis and those types near the latter stages. But most NBA teams are looking at the Celtics and they don't want to deal with them and their picks because their picks aren't going to be valuable. And when you take those picks, now the Celtics were forced to turn those picks into players. And now you're looking at Grant Williams, Payton Pritchard, Aaron Nesmith.
You're right.
That's not exactly
great.
Yeah. So those picks have their value has steadily diminished. That's why if you are convinced that you are not going to be able to keep Jaylen and Jayson, you absolutely have to move them. You absolutely have to, because that is literally the only chip that you have in your hand that has value.
Right.
Yeah,
now, if you think you can build around them, if you think you can build around them, then you keep them and you put all your assets into trying to hoodwink, bamboozle, lead someone astray to take those guys off your hand and get you're trying to pull a DA move.
Yeah.
Building around them.
You're trying to DA somebody real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And you know what, Bobby? Also, like you look at the past, the Celtics have had what? 2 of their own picks, right? 2 lottery picks in the last 16 years, 15 years? Like it's been a while. Like when they usually have a lottery pick, it's usually not theirs. They traded for
it. But how do you know where they are 5-6 years from now? And that's why the Rockets were willing to take on Nets picks years in advance, even though the Nets were going to be perennial contenders here in the Harden deal. Pelicans did the same with Bucks.
That core's older though.
Clippers did the same.
They had to make that deal though, Bobby. There's a difference between you actually going out to try and get a deal done versus having your hand forced by your fat, out of shape star who doesn't want to be with you.
Well, they had the choice. They could have went Ben Simmons with less picks or Nets with more picks, and they chose the picks. Rebuilding teams value multiple years of first round picks.
I think the idea of not rebuilding around Ben Simmons is a pretty smart idea right about now, don't you?
Yeah, but you're also, like you said, leaning on Nets picks. One of those is going to become bad. You know, it looks like a few years from now at the very least. So it's a balance you strike there as a rebuilding team. I just don't want people to knock the idea of trading future first-round picks if you're the Celtics. When you have 6 on deck right here.
You can find takers for those picks, Bobby.
Yeah, because you don't need them.
Yeah,
You're
look,
so far from those.
This is what we said.
I
You
think
put the
you
picks.
can
If a
do it.
top 30 player is top 30, 35 player is on the table for the picks, you take it because you're not going to get another shot at it.
I'm not talking about Lillard. I'm talking about Sabonis. I think that's the guy they need here. And you know, you're going to have to entice the Indiana because they're doing a half rebuild here. They want to still remain competitive while swapping out one of those.
The problem is with
They'll
everyone wants to have.
but
That's the problem. And this is where the Celtics are screwed. They've only got these picks that may or may not have value, and they don't have anything tangible. And that's where they get screwed on every one of these deals. They don't have that one up-and-coming player to dangle. They don't have Jaylen 4 years ago, which is to say, I got this guy. He could be really, really good.
Rob.
I'll give you him and a pick. That's
Right.
exciting. Jaylen and 2 future
Especially-
firsts for your star is
Yeah.
exciting.
Especially if the
But
guy's on his rookie
Nesmith-
contract, bird rights, all that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, because
that's
when
what,
you were
that's
yeah,
what
when
kills
you-
them. They don't have that.
Yeah.
when you were able to get a guy like Kevin Garnett, you had Al Jefferson, you had Green, you had all these young
And a
guys
stack of picks.
that showed enough potential
Right.
that you could envision them being a significant impact player. No disrespect to Grant Williams, but is anyone serious, as well as he's played,
Not Big
does
Al.
anyone seriously think he's going to be like a Big
No.
Al?
Nope.
He's more
And
valuable
you
than he
look
was a year ago.
Nesmith,
But that's not the
But he's
point.
nowhere close.
He has zero
Yeah.
value because
Well,
it's
You don't
not.
have someone that
that
can
is
say
that
that's
is the
zero
point right
value.
there.
But Bobby,
That's a
we
fundamental
get this
thing.
wrong. We've been getting this wrong for a year and a half. So I got to tell you, there's a difference between a player having value to you and having value to someone else to give up
Yeah.
something for
Depends who it
them.
is. You don't
You
think Grant would
don't.
be
You do
valuable to
not
Indiana?
give up a real asset for Grant Williams. You don't do it. You
Well,
go
it's not
get.
just him alone.
I'm saying he is
But
one
what's
of
he really adding to the
Nothing.
package, right? In the
Nothing.
grand scheme of things, like,
Yeah.
it's hard to say. Oh,
They
yeah,
have zero value in a trade. They don't have zero value to you. Grant Williams has value to the Celtics, but nobody is going to give you real assets with Grant Williams being a featured portion of that trade.
Right.
He's a throw-in to make salary work, and that's it. You know, and
That is
sure,
not
yeah,
true
I could
with
use
what
a
he's
young
looking
guy like that.
now.
If there's 10 points in the trade, he's
I'm not calling
he's
him the centerpiece. Yeah.
he's not even. I mean, he's just a pick one of the guys you want. Who do you want? Grant, Nesmith, whatever. Yeah, I'll take this guy. That's that. It's just an add-on.